We hear it all the time, right? The secret to success is just building good habits. But what if the very thing that makes a habit so powerful, the fact that it's automatic, is also what's secretly holding you back from reaching your true potential? Well, today, we're going to dive deep into the real truth about your habits.
All right, let's jump right in. At the heart of this whole thing is this really fascinating idea called the habit paradox. But to really get a handle on the paradox, first, we've got to appreciate just how incredibly powerful habits are in the first place.
This quote just nails it. Habits aren't the end goal, they're the foundation. So think about a chess grandmaster, for example. They aren't sitting there thinking, okay, the knight moves in an L shape. Of course not. That part is completely automatic, which frees up all their brain power to focus on the high-level strategy. Habits really are the backbone of excellence. But here's the twist. This is the central conflict of it all. The very thing that makes a habit so strong is also what makes it weak. See, being able to do something without thinking about it, that's the huge upside. But the massive downside? We stop paying attention to the little mistakes we're making along the way.
And that downside, well, it leads us straight into something called the autopilot trap. This is that super frustrating place where you feel like your progress is just totally stalled out, Your skills hit a plateau, even though you feel like you're putting in the work day after day.
The engine driving this whole trap is a state of mindless repetition. This is that feeling of just going through the motions. You're putting in the hours, sure. You're gaining what feels like experience, but you're not actually getting any better. You're just doing the thing.
So here's the crucial insight. When a habit is on full autopilot, you're not improving it anymore. You are simply reinforcing it. You are cementing that skill in place exactly as it is, with all its flaws. Gaining experience does not automatically mean you're getting better.
Let's break down exactly why this happens. First off, your brain just stops looking for feedback. You kind of just assume, yep, I'm doing it right. And this makes it way easier to let those little mistakes just slide by totally unnoticed. And because you're not seeing the errors, you stop asking that critical question, how can I do this better? In fact, there's even some research showing that once a skill is mastered, your performance can actually start to dip a little bit over time. Okay, so if autopilot is the trap, then how do we get out of it? How do we keep growing? This brings us to the solution, what we can call the mastery formula.
And this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If just doing a good habit over and over and over again isn't enough to become truly exceptional, what else is there? What are we missing?
The answer is a really powerful combination. It's not about ditching your habits, no way. It's about layering something else on top of them. Deliberate practice. This is where you take your automatic skills and you combine them with this intense, conscious focus. Think about it like this. For most things in life, like making your morning coffee, a good enough habit is perfect. You want that on autopilot. But for those skills where you really truly want to be exceptional, you have to intentionally add that layer of conscious, deliberate practice. Now, what's so important to get here is that this isn't a one-and-done kind of fix. Mastery is not a destination you just arrive at. It's a continuous process. It's an endless cycle of growth. So this process, it really breaks down into 4 key steps. First, you zero in on one tiny element of what you're doing. Then, you practice it with your full attention until it becomes totally internalized. It's automatic. Then, and this is the most critical part, you use that new habit as a solid foundation to go and tackle the next, more advanced challenge. So, you see, each habit you truly master isn't the finish line. It's actually the key. It's the key that unlocks the next level of performance, allowing you to take on things you just couldn't handle before. So, how do we actually do this? How do we make sure we don't get stuck at good enough in the areas that we really care about? Well, it all comes down to one really practical tool. The whole challenge really boils down to this one question. In a life that's built on automatic habits, how do you intentionally switch off the autopilot and stay aware of how you're really doing? And the solution, well, it's as simple as it is profound. You need to establish a system for reflection and review. This is the mechanism. This is the thing that forces you out of that mindless repetition. It's your scheduled time to switch off the autopilot, to look critically at your performance, find the errors, and then decide what tiny little element you're going to focus on next. And that leaves us with a final thought to take away from all this. Think about the skills you're most proud of, the habits that feel the most automatic to you. Which of your best habits might be the very one that needs a fresh, conscious look?